Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Glory, an athlete empowerment production series brought to you by the Wattle Nest. My name is Rachel Condos Fields and I'm excited to introduce you to some of Australia's great sporting talent as we share their stories, celebrate their success and embrace the power of sport as the true connector within our community. Joining me today, as always, is our beautiful co-host and Australian track and field athlete, Nana Owasu. Welcome.
Hey Rachel, thanks for having me today.
You're going to be excited today because our virtual guest is one of your former teammates and good friends. I'm really delighted to be welcoming Australian hurdler, Abbie Taddeo.
Hey guys.
Hey Abbie.
Hello.
You're like the third wheel today.
Yes, I'm chatting with one of
Literally.
my closest friends, so very excited to hear more about her story as I know so much already. So Abbie, track and field, we both do it. There's so many events. Why hurdles?
I think the biggest thing for me is I love a challenge. So as much as running in a straight line is a bit of a challenge for me, I decided to throw 10 obstacles in front of me and give it a crack and see how I would go. I had some early success when I was a junior and I just fell in love with it because it was such a challenge, not just, physically, but also mentally.
So Abbie, what goes through your mind when you're jumping over a hurdle? And if things don't go right, how do you move on from a heat to a final?
Well, this is actually a funny one because this happened to me at Nationals this season, actually. So I think the biggest thing for me is just there's so much going on, in 13 seconds and in 100 meters. So I think it's just super important to stick to my lane, stick to my race, stick to my rhythm, do what I can do. And then I think the biggest thing post that is when things don't go well, in particular from a heat to a final, there's only usually a couple of hours. So just go back through my mental cues. And I think the biggest one, as you would know, is just backing yourself and know that you've done the work and come out and you've got another chance to give it another shot.
Wise words from you. Now, I know that you live outside Sydney, over an hour away from training. Can you talk to us about the financial, physical and mental strain? And how do you stay motivated travelling so far?
My life's quite hectic most of the time. So sometimes it's actually quite nice just to sit in the car for over an hour and a half and get to training. But I think the hardest thing for me mentally is that if things aren't going well or I'm not performing well in my races from week to week, I think that's the biggest one because it comes back to the question of I am traveling so far and training isn't just around the corner for me like it is for my training partners. So I think just always knowing my why and coming back to the basics of why I do it and why I love the sport. And I think from financial perspective more so is just extra cost in physio and massage and sitting in that car for an hour and a half to sometimes 2 hours in traffic. I think that's the biggest one, but also cost of obviously petrol at the moment. That's been a big one for me. So we've actually cut back on some training in Sydney just for that aspect that's going on at the moment, but also psychology bills too. So that's also another big one, but there is a lot of it. But I think the biggest one is just my body.
So your coach, Penny, is a former Olympian, Abbie, so she can relate to some of these barriers. But what's some of the advice she's given to you?
I think two pieces of advice first one would be just being adaptable. Things don't always go, in your favour and the success of athletics isn't always linear. And I think the other one is to, I guess, in the most respectful way, don't be scared and give things a crack and don't be afraid to, step outside your comfort zone. I think as an athlete, sometimes we, like to be in control as many things as we can. And that might be how we run a rep or, who we're training with or who the training partner is that day. It's just jumping outside that comfort zone all the time and, racing people in training particular who are faster than you. And yeah, I think that big one, most importantly, is just being adaptable.
Yeah, fantastic. You talked earlier about some of those mental cues to get you through from heats to finals. I'm curious to understand what's involved in a race day ritual for you. What do you do leading up to that moment?
I think the big one in the morning is just trying to stay as relaxed as possible. One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever received, I think, is just winding up to the race, similar to how I do a warm-up. Things will start slow, and then start to pick up that intensity. So for me in the morning, from keeping it as simple as, a barrier from 1 to 10 and just staying at 1 and then gradually building that intensity as the day comes up. And when I'm behind the blocks, I'm at my most peak and ready to go and all that adrenaline's ready to happen and not just wasting that so soon through the day, but using all that adrenaline and all that excitement at the right time just before the gun's about to go. That would be my biggest one, I would say.
And I know that you and Nana have been teammates. In fact, you've won a silver medal together. What's Nana really like as a teammate? Do you have any gossip for us? How would you describe her? What's some of her annoying traits that we don't see here in the show?
I hope they're nice things, Abbie.
Oh, I don't know how deep I... No, that's okay. No, she's great. She's such a ball to be around, actually. And I think the biggest thing is we're so in sync from like a mental, I guess, capacity, because, you know, we've gone through similar things in the last couple of years where things haven't gone our way, in particular for, you know, fighting for team selections and not making that team. That I think she's such a great friend to like check in with and have, and know that like you're not the only one going through those bad times, and you can go together through it with a friendship. And I think that's what's so special in that we have in a friendship, that even if one is thriving and the other one might not be, like, to always back each other. And yeah, she's great. She's actually one of the funniest people I know, to be honest.
Thank you for that.
Good. You can pay her later. You talked a little bit about the importance of support, and you talked about Nana being one of those people. Who else do you go to for support, and how important is that support network?
My small team that I have around me, you know, all my coaches, from physical to mental, physiotherapists, massage, everyone in my team is made up of 5 people. So I think that biggest thing is that not only them being there for me in the good times and thriving with me in the good times, but how they're responding and how they're acting when things aren't going well or when changes need to be made. I think my biggest thing is like that small team around me is so important to me. And as long as those 5 people are on the same page, that's all I need.
So very, very, very true. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that you, despite your crazy, hectic life that you've articulated so beautifully, I know that you have co-founded a business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually started a business with one of my best friends. It's Empower Health. So it's very training and nutrition perspective, but also stripping it back. It's a holistic approach to the health and fitness industry, essentially. The reason I wanted to start that is because I wanted to give, not just from the elite perspective that I work in and work closely with from a day-to-day basis personally, but also a general population perspective of giving people those tools, I guess, as well, also like knowledge and implementing stuff and teaching people the stuff that I never got, essentially. So I've had this business now 6 months, actually, next week. It's been off the ground, so that's been really exciting. And we put it on an online platform, obviously, because of my busy schedule and being in Sydney 4 days a week. So also not just to get people from around my area in Wollongong down on the far south coast, but also to branch off into people like internationally, but also domestically through Australia. So I've been pretty lucky to reach some platforms up in Queensland, and some I'm working with someone over in WA at the moment. But Empower Health is really just not just that training and nutrition perspective, also just from that holistic perspective too, of knowing people's why and treating people, you know, that they're not just a number, like they're heard from us, and we can really tap into that psychological side, but also tap into that physical side too. So that was kind of my reason why I wanted to start Empower Health and give people, as I said, that tool and information that I never got coming through as an elite athlete.
Well, congratulations on your business. I love following it on social media, and I feel like you can help me right now. So
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate enough to see you hurdle and train. Talk me through a hurdle session, because I know there's different aspects to your training, and I see you do some crazy drills. So can you explain how a hurdle session would go? Because I know Rachel was fortunate enough to watch one last week.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, I was saying this to Rachel last week, is that as much as it is a physical preparation into that training session, there's also a lot of mental preparation, because there's a lot of thinking that happens before approaching that hurdle. So it's funny, I might not necessarily be going over, say, 6 or 7 hurdles. I might only go over 3, but the preparation into that hurdle and coming off that hurdle every single time 10 times and replicating that specifically to where it needs to be for me is quite tough mentally. But I think the biggest thing with drills is just prepping and refining my body and tools. I'm at an area in my career, I would say, towards the back end, that I want to do the tiny things 150%, not just 100%. So those drills are almost like a preparation, and then coming into the hurdle session, there's certain days that we work on where I might be taking off on the hurdle and then where I'm landing on the other end of the hurdle, and then there's other days where I'm just thinking about running through the hurdle and running through it with speed. And then there's also that other day that I'm looking about just commitment. Like one of my sessions is just like committing to the hurdle and not being scared or afraid, where I might float over the hurdle a little bit or I might not take off far enough. So there's a lot involved in an actual hurdle session, but trying to put everything together, those sessions are usually broken down from a technical aspect as well as like a mental aspect and that physical aspect too. So there's a lot of things that go on during that training session.
And what are your end goals and aspirations? What are you hoping to all of this training pays off for?
My biggest one definitely would be the 2024 Olympic Games. That would be my big major goal. So everything, all my training, all my preparation, all my periodization plan is heading towards those 2024 Summer Olympics.
Good luck. We wish you all the very best, Abbie. Now, Nana loves the game, as you know. So she's introduced a concept called the Fast Four, where she's going to give you 4 trivia questions. Feel free to pass. We're not getting a very good success rate with contestants on the show today. But over to you, Nana. Fast Four.
So I've got a couple questions for you, Abbie. I feel like you should know this one straight away. No hesitation.
No pressure.
How many hurdles in a hurdles race?
10.
Okay, good one.
Lucky.
The next one is, what do you call a baby horse?
Pony?
A foal.
Foal.
Oh, okay.
Foal, sorry. Foal.
Foal.
How many players on a basketball team, on and off the court?
There's 5 on the court.
Yes. How many on the bench, though?
I don't actually know the
4?
answer to that.
Bingo! Well done. 2 out of 2.
And I played and coached basketball.
This might be a tough one. Who has more countries, Africa or South America?
South America.
Sadly, it's Africa. Africa has 54 and South America only have 12. All right, Abbie, your final question is, what sport is this ball used for?
I'm going to have to pass.
The answer is pickleball.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Potentially a new Olympic sport. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We have run out of time, Abbie. So wonderful to see you. You look very different on studio than what you do on the track and field training circuit, but great to have you here. Good luck with your Paris adventures, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Thanks, Nana.
Thanks, Rachel, for having me. And I'll see you on Tuesday for our little phone call we have every week.
I need a Tuesday friend. Well, that concludes this episode of For the Glories. Be sure to tune in next time as we discuss and share more stories from the professional athlete world. Thanks, everyone. Until next time. Goodbye.